Chapter 16. Interrogation. The local police station was a small building next to the arts and crafts shop. The community constable's house was situated behind the station. Today, the sight of two police cars caused the small town's traffic to slow as people peered. Nadine didn't care that people were staring because she felt so tired. Martin parked the truck a little way down the street and they got out. They trudged silently and sadly to the station as Martin pushed the stiff swing door open and let Nadine through. A wall of warm, moist air rushed them. A female officer was on duty. She smiled briefly at them before disappearing out the back. A few minutes later, the policeman who had spoken to Ted at the dogfight came through a side door. "Hi guys," he said kindly. "Come through here, would you?" He held the door open for them. Nadine went first, followed by Martin, but they both waited for the officer to lead the way. They went down a short corridor. There were rooms going off on either side, and as they passed them, Nadine half expected Ted to be in one of them. She was a little disappointed that they were all empty. The officer opened one door and motioned to Martin. "You can sit in here, son. Someone will see you shortly. Nadine, please come with me." Vaguely, Nadine wondered how he knew her name, but everything was a mystery at the moment. The two of them went further down and into another room. Nadine sat in the chair offered by the policeman, and a minute later a female officer came in and sat with them. "I'm Sergeant Reb Harris, and this is Constable Merriman. I want you to tell me what you told your mother this morning." For a moment her mind went blank and Nadine stared at the officer. He smiled at her and the woman reached over and patted her hand. "You're fine here," she said. "We need to write down what you say." "Okay?" Nadine nodded. "Just tell us the same thing you told your mum." Nadine's mind went back to the morning, what seemed like a million years ago. The blood-stained shirt, the anger, the fear, everything. And now, here she was, sitting in this room in front of people who wanted to hear all about it. She cleared her throat. "Well," she began, "I told Ma." And for the next hour Nadine poured out her heart. She told them about the pipe, and about hearing Daniel or Martin crying, about the day she accidentally walked in on Martin in the bathroom and the welts on his back and shoulders. She told them about how afraid Ted made them feel. She told them about Hawkeye and the ring and what she'd seen. She told them everything and she cried. When there was no more to tell and the tears had dried up, Nadine was brought a cup of tea and some biscuits. The two officers listened, sometimes asked a question, but mainly let her talk. By the time she emerged from the room, it was dark outside, for the windows mirrored them, ghost-like, as they went to another part of the small station. At the end of the hallway was a large common room, and in there, around a white plastic table, sat Daniel, their mother, and one of the other officers. Marion looked dazed and sad. Daniel's nose was swollen, and he was holding a bag of frozen peas wrapped in a tea towel against it. The first officer pointed to some chairs, and quietly Nadine sat down. "Where's Martin?" Nadine whispered to her mother. "Still being interviewed." Nadine couldn't stand it any longer. "Why are we here?" she asked. "What's happened?" Nadine looked at Daniel, who said nothing but pressed the peas gently to his nose again. Their mother rubbed her temples before answering. About half an hour after Ted left, the police arrived. Came looking for Ted, they said. I wanted to know what about, and they said that they had a warrant for his arrest. Seems he's been running a lottery scam. They also asked me heaps of questions about the dogs and wanted to know what I knew about a dog fighting ring. She looked up at Nadine. I tried to find you because of what you had said, but you weren't anywhere. I told the police what you'd said. Tears filled her eyes. I thought you were making it all up, Nadine. I thought you were just trying to spoil things for me. She pulled a tissue from a box on the table and dabbed her nose. But what you said about the money, it rang true. I kept wondering about the money, and when I asked Ted, and he said about $400. I know, Nadine said quietly. I heard you. I was, in the truck. Hey, I didn't see you. I was hiding behind the seats. Marion shook her head. Oh, Nadine, she blew her nose. Anyway, she continued, I showed them the shirts soaking, and they told me some things about Ted, and I got worried. I asked to come along too. Just then Martin came in. He looked exhausted, and Nadine knew he had been crying. The officer cleared his throat. That's all we need from you at this point. What about Ted? We still have a lot of questions for him. Isn't he supposed to have a lawyer with him? Marion asked. He said he didn't want one at this time, the officer replied. We need to keep the truck, so I'll get one of the boys to drive you all home. What about Hawkeye? Nadine blurted out. Can we just go check on him? The sergeant nodded, but Marion shook her head. No, Nadine. We can call in the morning. Nadine looked to the policeman. But it's all right. It won't take a minute, the officer said. Marion gathered up her things and put her hand out to Nadine. Let's go see him then, she said.